Hello viewers, my name is Douglas Withey. I'm former water superintendent for the City of Cortland. Worked there for 35 years until I retired in 2007. I'm very familiar with the aquifer and various potentials for contamination. And this is just part of our continuing education on protecting our water supply, making our public apprised of what goes into getting the water from here at Gracie Road to your faucet. Now, here at Gracie Road, which is at the intersection of Route 13 South, going towards Dryden, and to my left is the Gutchess Lumber Sports Complex, which we can all familiar with and relate to. So the water starts here and travels through the ground to our production wells. Now, the water to my right ultimately ends up in St. Lawrence Seaway. This is kind of the apex of the aquifer. So for my right hand, it's going south and ultimately ends up in St. Lawrence Seaway, entering into the Atlantic Ocean. To my left runs in a northerly direction, and this is the Otter Creek aquifer. So in a northerly direction, running parallel pretty much with Route 13, so you kind of get your reference points here. And it goes about 1.5 miles to get to the town of Cortland-Mill's wells over on Lime Hollow. And that'll be one of our stops that we'll be doing in this video. From this point, 4.4 miles goes to the city wells over on Broadway. And again, we'll be traveling that whole distance that the water travels. We'll make a few stops along the way. And as we pump the water from this location and ultimately comes to your faucet, water is traveled anywhere from 1.5 miles to 4.4 miles, depending on where you're consuming from, and an additional 77 miles of transmission line to get it to your faucet. So that's a long travel time, a lot of distance, a lot of things can happen to our aquifer because it's a very porous soil. So the water travels from here, ultimately comes back here in a drinkable fashion with a little disinfection, and it's great for us. Okay, we're at our second location. That's the Cortland-Mill Lime Hollow Production Center there for their water supply. There's 2 of their 3 wells that are located at this site. Now, we traveled 1.5 miles to get here. Now, the wells set outside the buildings. So we've got 2 wells here, just a little reference point, 125 horsepower to pump the water that's needed to get it to the water tanks, and then ultimately runs to your faucets. Inside the building, the only process we have there is adding a little bit of chlorine for disinfection. We'll talk more about disinfection as we move on down with our travels. Okay, we're at our third stop for this morning. We started out at Gracie Road, the headwaters of the Otter Creek Dry Creek aquifer. And our first stop after that was the Lime Hollow production wells for the town of Cortlandville. From there, they pump about 1 million gallons per day. We want to make sure our water quality is good, and so to ensure that, we have a monitoring well. I've got my left hand on it here, and these are tested periodically to check the water quality. There's all kinds of influences out there that can change our water quality. So with this, if we sample it here, this will be like preemptive before it gets to the city's production wells, so we can have a plan of attack as to how to correct the contamination from the aquifer before it gets to our production wells. Now, behind me, this is Route 13, that's a reference point. You can see some other commercial industrial sites around us. It all works well on top of our aquifer. So the monitoring wells are one of the things that we make sure that everything is working. This is our fourth stop, and this is Otter Creek behind me. So this stream is currently flowing at a depth of probably about 2 foot deep, and in August, September, it'll be virtually dry. All right, so it's a losing stream that represents the level of our aquifer. So if I was to dig to the same depth over here, I'll hit water at the same plane. So this is kind of a protective buffer. The soil's on top of the aquifer. So if there was a spill here, hopefully it's kind of contained. We can dig it out, take it to a more appropriate place, and again, take it out of the water before it gets to the production wells. So we have on both sides of Route 281 going north, wooded areas, totaling someplace around 130, 135 acres. Our forefathers bought this back in the 1900s as a safe cut. They didn't want the development to be on top of our aquifer, and so this is come to the next day. And it's worked well. If it was a leak spill, we could put interceptor wells in on this side or over there where it was the most appropriate spot, and pump the contaminant out before it gets to production wells. Okay, we're at our fifth stop of the tour. Behind me, the red brick building was built back in around 1913 as part of an upgrade to keep up with the demands and so on there for the water. There's also a great movement for better water quality. To the right of the building, you see the round concrete cylinder. That was the first well. It's a shallow well. It's only 15 feet deep, 20 foot diameter. But from that, we could get 4.3 million gallons a day. Around October, we'd have to take it offline because the aquifer is down so low at that point that it'll start picking up stones from the bottom of the well. So we went to a deep well, which we'll show you what that looks like in just a few more slides. So the facility's been well maintained. Again, 1913 on the building. That used to house a steam engine that ran the pump that pumped the water from the aquifer. So to my right, as we pan over, you'll see some ponds. The ponds were the original water supply back in 1884. All right, so we went from 1884 to 1913 using pond water, which had no protection. All right, shallow water supply. At one point, they extended the ponds farther, hoping for more water, but it didn't pan out to be any better. So this is also the one protected. It's not groundwater; it's surface water. This is pre-chlorination, so there wasn't any disinfection being done. So you never knew what might be migrating through the water into the pumps and going up to the tanks. So chlorination and going with a well system was a huge improvement on water quality. Okay, so we're at our sixth stop for today, and behind me you see well number 4. This well was built back in 1958. The original pump house around it has been destroyed and carted off, and we have this new facility that you see here now. It's been under construction for about a year and a half, and they're getting close to getting it done, and so on. So there's a whole new treatment plant. The well is inside, right behind that blue pipe there at the wall. That's the well. It's down there 77 feet deep. It'll pump 6 million gallons a day. So we lift it out of the ground, pump it through this pipe back underground to the distribution system. So from there it goes to our next facility. Okay, so we're at our 7th stop for this tour, and behind me, a little bit to my right, you'll see a new building that goes hand in hand with the new treatment plant. At this location, we measure or meter the amount of water that's being pumped, gallons per minute, monitor the pressure, and this is where we inject a little bit of chlorine. And so it's a very small amount, but it's very effective in killing any harmful bacteria that may be in the water. Now behind us, you can see the aluminum tower that is about 50 feet tall, 11 feet diameter, and the water that comes out of the well comes directly to the air stripper, packed tower unit, this aluminum tower, and we pump to the top, and it trickles down like rain onto a media that breaks it down to a film. And so we've passed air up through the water that's down to a film now, and it goes out into the atmosphere, and UV light makes it inert. So this is designed primarily for the spill that we experienced back in 1987, and it's considered VOCs, or better spelled out would be volatile organic compounds that are in the water. They're man-made. They don't want to be there, and they're carcinogenic, and there's other issues with that if it's in the drinking water. So we have it down well below the MCL, which is maximum contaminant level for the state of New York's water quality analysis. So if we weren't to use it, we'd still be well into, below the contamination levels that's set by the state. But this just makes it a little better, and if it reoccurs greater in strength from being lodged in the ground and suddenly get a higher release, then this is going to remove 95% of that. So it'll keep us well below the MCL, so the maximum contaminant level. So collectively, here for the City of Cortland, we have the capacity of about 15 million gallons a day. All right, we're well below that. We do about 2.5 million gallons a day, pretty much every day, with the college in session and all that. So very, very strong aquifer, very high capacity pumping, and we have pretty much 5 million gallons of water in storage. So if for some reason we can't pump, we've got a 2-day supply in storage. So we're very, very resilient to most anything that could happen to slow down our water production. Okay, so this is our 8th stop for today on our tour. First stop, if you recall, was Gracie Road. That was the headwaters of the Otter Creek Aquifer. And then we traveled 1.5 miles to Lime Hollow, the first production wells for the town of Cortland-Homer-Preble, of which there's 2 lazy wells. And from there we saw Otter Creek, we saw sampling wells, monitoring wells, and so on. And we saw the treatment plant for the City of Cortland. Now, we also, for treatment, in addition to chlorine, there was the air stripper which removes volatile organic compounds. So the finished water, we don't just pump it, we need it, we pump and put it in storage. So behind me, we have 2 steel tanks, they're painted steel, and the one in the back is 1915, the one in the front is 1928. Well maintained over the years, and they hold 1.25 million gallons each. So that coupled with 3 million gallon tank we have in another location. We have 5 million gallons of storage in place all the time. So if there's a power failure or a major water leak or whatever, we got lots of reserve water. That aids in the treatment process for chlorination. Gives a lot of contact time. So any little viruses or bacteria in there, the chlorinate can do its job. And it makes a nice, safe, potable water for you. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for viewing this. Again, there's a whole lot more than what we highlighted here today. But the key thing is the water color we have today, we need to preserve that. That's everyone staying vigilant. Right, seeing what's going on over the aquifer and so on there, that could be potential issues down the road. Also, our scientists are discovering new elements that are contaminating our water that we may never see here, but other states have seen. So there's a whole lot more to water than what we've been able to touch on there today. So after 50 years in the water business, 35 with the city and 15 retired, I'm very pleased to be asked to present this to you, and again, stay in touch. It's your water supply, it's your health, it's the health of our